it was when the political union is reached, then Nkrumah called it the Africa High Command, the Africa Command. And a friend of mine used to say that these soldiers have been staging coup d'etat in African countries. So if you have one African army, they'll be staging coup d'etats all over the continent. Africa will know no peace. But a continental military, you see, as I said, always keep in mind the primary objective of unification. If Africa has a military command which has rapid response, some of these problems that emerge, we don't have to depend. Look at what happened in Libya. I think that was the biggest mistake of Obama. Gaddafi, he was a dictator, fine, but the way they dealt with him, where was Africa? It was France and the US and Britain, and that is why me, for example, I don't support the attempts by the West to remove the Zimbabwean president of Zimbabwe, Mugabe, even though he is a problem. Africans should be able to deal with him. And I was happy with Gambia. If Africa is able to unite and has its own military force that can be deployed over the continent, it can respond, quickly to crisis and conflict. As matters stand now, when the conflict is developing, we don't even know. In Sierra Leone, when the conflict was about to start, the first people to see it were the women, the market women, and the women, beautiful women. They were the first to see that something wrong was happening. Because Foday Sankoh and his people sent a lot of young men to Libya to train. And after training, they came back into Freetown in 5s and 4s. They can't come all of a sudden. So about 4 of them will come today, next week about 10 will come, and they will come in those groups. And these were young, energetic, handsome men. And when a man comes to a community, the woman will be the first to notice. Just as if a woman comes to a community, we are the first to notice. So the women noticed. Later, after the war, there was a study, and it was found out that these women noticed these young, handsome, energetic men, some of them in Rasta, coming in town. But they feared to talk about it to their husbands, because in some cases the husband would beat them. Why are you watching another man? The men are sometimes jealous. So after they assembled, then the war started. So there's something we call early warning signs. What are the early warning signs of a conflict? One early warning sign is where the per capita income, you know what the per capita income is? All the gross domestic product, everything the country has, divided by the population, is the per capita income. The biggest in the world is, I think, Bahrain or so. Ghana's per capita income is now about 1,200. But where a country's per capita income is 500 and below, it is potentially unstable. Episodes of political instability are more in countries where poverty, hardcore poverty, is endemic. So if you have an army that is doing well, you can do reconnaissance, you can show us early warning signs. Now look, in Sierra Leone, in the next 2 years, giving the indicators, war is possible. We can move in and stop all these conflicts that is destroying the continent. But who is going to finance this huge continental army? Nigeria, South Africa? South Africans are not ready. Nigerians are too corrupt. Political leaders are too corrupt in Nigeria that I don't even trust them. And where are you going to base the African capital? Maybe it would be better to bring it to Praia. Okay, then if Cape Verde wants to host the capital, you contribute 25% of the budget every year. Nigeria will say that, because they want it in Nigeria, and Ghana wants it, and so on. But is it at all feasible? Is it at all feasible? These are the kinds of things. I also want you to, I know that this man is coming next week after I left, Lumumba, and he's going to look at, because according to him, and he's going to deal with you, the integration is not a new thing in Africa. Even before the colonial rule, people were integrating, you know. So are there some specific historic African lessons that we can use, you know, because the people of Mali were coming all the way to Kumasi and Accra to trade, long before we were colonized. And there are traces. And in fact, in Ghana, in my language, there are some words that are coming from Mali. People who have studied linguistics are pointing all these things out. So there are some historic collaborative efforts that could be used. So I want you to also look at Africa as it is, the history of Africa, what Africa has been doing in the pre-colonial period to date, to see if there are certain specific, unique things Africans can do to unite, because unity is so important for three reasons. The first reason is the economic reasons, economy of scale, peace, and all that. But the second important reason is that other nations are integrating. Other regions are doing it. Regionalism or regional integration is an idea whose time has come. If you don't do it, you are left behind. Others are uniting and having a bigger voice. Others are uniting and having bigger economies. Why should we continue to remain as small, independent nation states? That is troubling. How can the voice of Guinea-Bissau or Cape Verde be heard in the world? When Guinea-Bissau speaks at the UN, does it carry weight? Can African voice carry a bigger weight? Can Africa as one united, be taken more seriously in the world? That's the biggest continent. We are not yet members of the Security Council. We are not members of the Security Council. And members of the Security Council have the power of veto and certification. The whole world will decide. One of them says no, it's no. China, Russia, America, Britain. The Germans are fighting to be part of it. Africa hasn't. Can we make Nigeria or South Africa a member of the Security Council? Because Africa is being marginalized globally. Meanwhile, it's a very big continent with all the resources. And so I think we have to unite or perish in the years to come. However, there are real, not just technicalities, real problems to handle. Problems to do with the colonial boundaries. Problems to do with education, as we mentioned, with information, as we mentioned. Problems to do with powerful European powers that are controlling Africa here and there. Problems to do with ethnic groups that are suspicious of one another. In Ghana, there are some tribes, my ethnic group, our parents will tell us, don't marry from that ethnic group. It's so nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. But this ethnic consciousness is there and very high. So how do we, in the face of all this, and I want to see students like you who would want to think outside the box. You understand what I mean by thinking outside the box? Thinking differently. Coming up with some innovative ideas as to move Africa forward. Monday, there was this man who was talking about strategic thinking. How do we think strategically to advance? Because we cannot afford to stay disunited. When everybody else is coming to, the Asians are doing it, Latinos are doing it. Next week, somebody will be talking to you about Latin American experiences and so on. And we should be doing it as well. And that's the model we have. If this wouldn't work, we should find our own path to unification. What it is, I don't know. And that is one of the things I want my students to think about seriously. Now, you wanted to scan the two. Somebody wanted to scan it yesterday. It was you, and